Welcome back to looking at some more of the basics of SQL. Remember, we started this series of learning SQL as a database system, and we're focusing on the basics because we just want to be able to easily set up some tables on a database system, generally so we can get practice connecting to it from a programming language like Python. And I've done a series of videos on connecting Python with SQL. So a lot of these videos are short, sharp introductions to some of the key commands or key ways of setting up tables in SQL so we can use them in our program. There are many videos and lessons where you can go into really a lot of depth into SQL. That's not my focus here. My focus is to get you up and running as quickly as possible. That's why the previous video on creating a table or tables is very useful. And now what I'm going to do is have a quick look at changing a table, because again, that's another requirement that we'll have, because whenever we build an application, it's always version 1. Whenever we build a database, it's always version 1. There will be changes. There will be a need to improve and change. So at the moment, I'm talking about just changing the structure of the table, and it's actually quite easy in SQL. Now I'm going to do this in SQL. I'm not going to do it through Python or anything. I'm going to do it through SQL. So let's jump over to my Visual Studio Code. And if I close that down, you can see that I've already loaded up a bit of SQL code from the last video where I'm creating a basic parts table, but I want to focus on altering or updating or changing the table as we go along. So the first thing I want to do is I'm going to create this table here. So let me execute this command, and I've created it, and that's fine. It's created it with those simple 4 fields with those particular data types. Nothing surprising about that. So the first thing we want to look at is what happens when we want to change that table. So we've got that basic parts table. It's got an ID, it's got a name, it's got a price, it's got a stock on hand. What happens if we want to improve that, build upon it? And it's quite easy. What we're going to do is we're going to alter the table. Parts. We're going to add column, and what we're going to add is a order quantity or low order quantity. I'm going to start writing it like that as an integer. Okay, and that's simply we're adding a field called low order quantity, which is what we would say, hey, once we hit that quantity, let's order some more stock. All right, so just another field, nothing fancy there. And if I execute that, hopefully it adds that, so not a problem. So let's have a look at the database and see what we've done here. So we've just added this integer here, okay? So we've done nothing more than just added, if you like, a column with the title on the table, and now we can add more information. Now, remember, if I've already got data in the table, that's not going to update the data. That's a different story altogether. We'll talk about that another time. All we want to do is focus in on altering, or if you like, adding that information. Now, I can also, if I want to change I can go alter table parts. I can alter the column. and I can alter the parts, so the low order from an integer to maybe a float. Okay. I'm not sure if I would do that, but it shows the command that I want to do. So that's if I got the data type wrong and I want to change the data type from integer to float. So that is possible, but I really do not recommend that. That's more likely to get you into trouble with type conversions and issues like that. I'm not a big fan of that. I would prefer to create a new column with the new data type, then go through a process of converting data across in a way that I particularly want, and then I might drop the column. So although we can alter the data type of a column, I'm not a good fan or big fan of doing that. I would rather add a new column with a temporary name or change a better name with a new data type, then convert the data across, especially if I've got lots of data in there, write a program or write some SQL to bring the data across, and then drop the column. Now, of course, dropping the column is very, very easy. If I wanted to, so let's assume I wanted to drop the column. It's as simple as dropping that particular column. Okay, and if it does that, and you can see it takes it away from there. So I've added the column and then I've dropped the column. They're the two ones that are most used, generally adding, but sometimes we go, okay, we want to change the structure, we want to delete a particular column. Now be very careful, you drop that column, you drop all the data in that column. So be careful, that's exactly what you want to do. Sometimes people don't drop the column if it's not a space issue, they just leave it there just in case, but it can be done. So the main one that I wanted to focus on was letting you know that we can add to, so executing this, we can add another column, and that has a lot of value because that really recognizes that even though we might have done a really good job of designing a database, really good job of normalizing a database, etc., as soon as we build a physical database, guaranteed next year or the week after, someone will say, we need ... So we're always going to be needing to add to that. Very easy done in SQL. 2 points that I recommend: don't do it in the programming language, do it in SQL, because it's sort of like a one-off process, right? And secondly, be careful about altering the data type of columns. My preference, add a new column and convert it over programmatically rather than just doing it automatically. Right? I think it's safer. Okay, so have a bit of an experiment with that. We'll move on and we'll start adding data to our database, getting us ready to connect with an application layer.